Hey everybody, it's Mike Andes, and today we're going to be doing a live show, answering questions and taking callers. Haven't done one of these in a few months now. I've been really busy and just not been able to get to it. And unfortunately, I haven't been able to get to a lot of emails from many of the listeners, and I've just been telling you, hey, wait for the next Q&A. Well, I haven't done a Q&A for months now. So I want to go ahead and make that available to everyone, and hopefully some of those that you have emailed me can hop on here, because I have not been able to get to my email the past couple months. It's been very busy operationally at Augusta. Let me just make sure everything here is rolling correctly. It is not.
All right, now you should be able to hear me. Okay, that's better. Okay, that's better, much better. Cool. All right, let's go ahead and get started. If you can hear me, feel free to say where you're from, and let's go ahead and jump in. Little's pressure washing, very cool. Very cool that we don't just have lawn care landscapers. We have a whole bunch of industries in here, so very cool. So feel free to call in. The number here is 361-733-3332. Going to be taking callers. Welcome everyone that is hopping on here today. Edenboro Landscaping, welcome. We're going to go ahead and answer some callers. Haven't done one of these call-in shows for a few months now. If you've emailed me in the past few months asking questions or anything like that, I apologize. I have not literally looked at my email inbox for the past couple months. It's been really pretty locked in. So hopefully be able to get back to some of these Q&As as much as I possibly can every couple weeks. So feel free to give a call in. I know how it usually works. No one calls in at first, and then at the end, we have to block off everyone that's waiting in the waiting room. So if you have a question, feel free to call in. Number is 361-733-3332. Let's go ahead, and we got a caller from Thomasville, Georgia. I think it's Larry. Are you on the call?
Hey, Mike. It's Caleb Conger.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Good, good. What's your question, brother?
So my question for you was, we're trying to grow. I'm 15. I actually talked to you in December. And at that point, our goal was 100,000 this year. We did about 16 last year. So we've raised that to $250,000, and then have a 5-year goal of 10 million in revenue. And so I'm looking to do 20 locations at $500,000 each. But my question for you is kind of, what should I make that process? My process that I was looking at is next 2 years, kind of focus on this location, and then 3 years after that, other locations. But I mean, right now we've got a truck, dump trailer, maintenance trailer, and then 2 full-time guys, me, and like 3 part-time guys. Should we look to do should we buy more trucks first, probably, or new hires? Or, what's your opinion?
First of all, you're crushing it at 15 to be doing what you're doing. I'm going to talk to you like I would any other person, because when I was 15, I wanted people to talk to me like a real business owner, not like I was 15. So I'm going to talk to you that way. And that is, you really want to lock in and focus on what you're doing now. Don't worry about the 5-year plan. Don't worry about $10 million in revenue. Don't worry about 20 locations. None of that matters. The only thing that you want to focus on in the next 6 to 12 months of growing your current location, hiring employees, getting them full-time, implementing systems, focus on that only right now. I know it's easy to get wrapped up into how many locations you're going to have, or revenues. That's very cool. And hey, you crushed it. We planned for 100,000. You're shooting now for $250,000. That's awesome. But just focus on that one location and just keep tweaking it and making it better till it can run without you. Then start focusing on the next thing, which is what? Your second location, right? Like, that's the only thing you need to focus on. Don't worry about getting wrapped up in the numbers or things like that. Like, you don't hear me talk a whole lot about like even how many locations we want for Augusta and things like that, because it doesn't really matter. I'm focused on like the next few months. These are the operational things I'm trying to get done. And for you, I would stay within 12 months. Anything beyond 12 months is a wild ankle guess in terms of what's going to happen. And things happen in life, things happen in the economy, things happen with employees. So don't put too much emotional investment into what the future is going to hold past 12 months.
Yes, sir. Do you suggest looking to do like more trucks? In our market, the lawns that we're regularly servicing are about 3/4 acres, and it's common to use like zero turns. I know y'all use the trailerless setup, and we normally use 60-inch zero turns. Is it a good idea to do what's called like an Isuzu truck, where it has a flatbed and you put a ramp on the back? Or is it a better idea to just do pickup trucks and trailers? What have you seen markets like that? And what do you recommend?
Yeah, it definitely depends on the market. I've seen some people that swear by the Isuzus. Other people say they're too much maintenance. Personally, like I'm a horrible mechanic. I have no idea what I'm doing. So if I was starting out, I wouldn't want to buy a piece of equipment that I have no idea how to fix and potentially could be very expensive to fix or hard to find people that can work on them. So I would definitely look at Landscape Business Course, the Facebook group. There's been some really good debates about Isuzus and what people's opinions are. I have not used them personally. Mostly because I feel like it's one of those things. If you're going to buy them, you kind of got to keep buying them. And I would rather take an interchangeable piece, which is like more like a pickup style something that is easier to find and get more of instead of something I have to lock myself into a specific type of truck. And that's typically why people have to start buying things new, because the only way they can find that specific type of truck they've locked themselves into. So I'm not against them though. I think they're great. I really like the driving experience, honestly, from a Isuzu. It's like from a safety standpoint, and just I really like it. It's just a matter of maintenance things. I have no idea. Sometimes it's hard to find dealers that will work on them, mechanics that will work on them, or they can be expensive. So I would just look on Landscape Business Course Facebook group, see if that's something that when you look at their debates kind of between people who have actually used them, if it's worth it or not. But again, I would just really, really zero on the fact that your limiting factor, was it Caleb, right?
Yes, sir.
Caleb, yeah. Like what's going to be your limiting factor is not going to be the trucks that you buy, right? It's going to be your employees, especially your age. The thing that's going to keep you from growth right now is going to be your ability to lead. And so the trucks, I really think you should flip a coin in terms of if you need another truck, which one you should buy, because that's not going to be the determining factor of whether or not you get to what your goal is, which you just said is $10 million. It's going to be whether or not you're able to lead an organization, learn how to have managers underneath you, and doing that at a very young age is no easy thing to do. So I would be really focused on spending your time on that, not spending hours and days trying to debate what type of truck you should buy.
Okay. So for the process of trucks, right now we have an extended tab, but we've got at least 2 full-time guys in it all the time. How many? I mean, I should be looking to purchase another truck, right? Or should I?
Yeah, especially if even if
I mean, by the end of the month, we'll have 3 full-time guys, and that's a small truck to be squeezed into. It's kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, even at 3/4 acre of an average lot size, anything above two people in the truck starts to get wasteful, right? It's really going to come down to whether or not you have the cash. And if
Yes,
you do
sir.
have the cash and you have the aspiration to grow, I would go ahead and buy the truck for sure. So, especially the rate that you're growing, you can definitely afford to get another truck. And again, assuming you can find those employees, I would really bank on employees once they're full time, not necessarily when you have a bunch of part timers, because at your age, that's usually the mistake I see a lot of young entrepreneurs making. They're hiring friends, high schoolers, part-timers, and then they fail to make that step to getting a whole bunch of full-timers. And it's mostly because it's easier to find part-timers at our age. When I say our age, I mean, I know it's like to be that young and hiring people. And so I would really focus on honing your skills of leadership, hiring full-timers, and lock that process in. What type of truck you buy, honestly, is not going to make a big difference in 5 years. It's going to be those other soft skills.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, right now, another issue I have is like you were talking about hiring friends. I have 2 guys that asked if they could work with me, and they're younger, so I can't run payroll for them. Should I continue to have them work, or because I hate to break that. Like, one of them hasn't even started yet, but he's going to be doing full time. But I mean, I'm going to have to pay all of his taxes. Is that worth? I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, first off, you're going to want to talk to a bookkeeper, potentially even talk to, what's the work kind of in your area, the labor sort of department, and see what's regulated. Because first of all, you're hiring minors, so that's a different license that you have to do in your business licensing. Furthermore, it's going to affect insurance and a whole lot of other things. So again, running your business that way, before doing that and then taking a step toward you're hiring people above 18 that have driver's licenses, that you can get a regular business license, that you can run payroll for, that's a whole different step of business, right? So that's what I want you to focus on over the next couple of years, doing that, and then focus on like growth and expansion and more trucks, all that down the road.
Okay. All right.
Because I know there's like an unlimited supply of 15, 16-year-olds that are willing to work for you part-time, but they're not. You can't build a really good business on part-timers that are 15 and 16. They're usually less reliable in terms of showing up. They're typically, they don't need the money. It's just, side cash they're trying to make. And so building a business that is sustainable and you can promise to customers you're going to get jobs done and know it can be done, and you can schedule things out in advance. You're going to need full timers, and you're going to want people that can drive, people that can insure, people that can run on payroll, that you have a legit business. And so that would be what I'd be really pushing you towards doing. And that's not easy when you're 15.
Okay. And then I had one other question for just culture and everything. Should I do weekly team meetings, or how often should I do those, and how should I spend it? Like y'all do 2 team meetings a week and then off-site meetings, all that stuff. Should I be worried about that as much? And
yeah, as soon as
I don't know. What's your opinion on kind of passing the vision along to others?
Yeah, when you have only a couple employees, it's a little bit weird sometimes to have meetings. In just like literally every single morning you're seeing them already. Now, if you're working part-time doing like school and things, you're going to need to make sure you actually do have in-person meetings. But I'm assuming that you're getting the day started with them, and so you're already kind of connecting with them every single day. What gets really important when you start getting 3, 4, 5 employees is having dedicated times on a couple days a week where you do have an actual meeting time to talk about specific things, safety, callbacks, training. And that becomes more important. It's a little bit strange when you only have 1 or 2 employees, just because you already are talking to them every single morning. But the sooner you can get into that habit of making those regular meeting times and have a specific day or 2 a week where they know first thing you're doing that morning is a meeting, is a good thing, in my opinion.
Okay. And then for yellow slips, how should that, because don't you all kind of pin up your yellow slips? Should we, if the crew is out working and I'm working with them, do I just say, hey, we got a yellow slip and go do it? Or do I actually write out a yellow slip? Or do I wait till we get back and then pin it up on the wall? That seems kind of dumb. What's the best, if we've got like 2 crews, what's the best way to do that? Just to call them and tell them? Or?
Yeah, I think the best way to do that is going to be still, even though if you're with the crew, make a yellow slip, write it up, put it on the wall. And then that's what you're going to go over at a meeting, is making sure that you actually go over what happened, how it was resolved, what we could have done to improve that and resolve or circumnavigate making that mistake altogether. It's a great way to start with your meetings, is just using those callbacks as a way to kind of kick that off. So I appreciate calling in, Caleb. I'm going to go ahead and move to the next caller. And that is going to come from Toronto, Ontario, I believe. Give me 1 second here. Nope. Oh, sick. I did the wrong one. I'm talking to James Moncrief. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hi, I was calling because I was wondering if, I'm focusing on picking up more customers this year, and I want to know some tips on how to pick up some more customers.
Absolutely. If I was you, sounds like you're pretty young. I would definitely be going, if you can, in your local neighborhood, assuming it's a safe neighborhood where you feel like you can go door to door, doing door hangers or knocking on the doors, talking to people. Even if your parents want to come with you, just to kind of make sure you're safe, that's a great way to do it. Otherwise, even if you just do your local neighborhood, you could do some flyers and then put them in every door direct mail, or EDDM. And so you probably spend about 25 cents or so per house to be able to print and then deliver those through the mail. So if you can't actually knock on people's houses, or they're kind of spread out, I would start with that. That's what I started with when I was 11, was every door direct mail. Put them in the, take them to the post office in a big bundle. They send them all just to the ones in your neighborhood, right? Because you're not going to be able to drive. You're not going to go far. So just focus on those, 50 to 100 houses that are closest to your house, and just keep talking to them all the time. Whether you knocking their door hangers, trying to do every door direct mail, that would be what I would recommend.
Yeah, I printed out some flyers, and I delivered them to a couple houses around my neighborhood, whose houses I wanted to try to pick up.
Mm-hmm. And did you get any responses from those, or not yet?
Not yet, but I'm hoping so soon.
Yeah, well, is it a safe neighborhood? Like, do you think you could go knock on their door and feel okay?
Yeah.
Like, even if your parents were out on this main street, just making sure you're okay, feeling good, or even they're with you, and you could just knock on those people's doors that you put the flyers on, and just say, hey, I put the flyer last week, just making sure you got that. I just want to make sure it didn't blow away in the wind, and just want to see if there's any work you need me to do. Like, at your age, I know, like when I was your age, I wanted to be really, really professional and seem like I have everything together in a big company and really, look great. But that's not what your selling point is right now. Right now is the fact that you are young. And so just be honest with people, like whether you're trying to save up for college, or you're trying to save up for something, a summer camp or whatever it is, it's extremely important to realize that is your unique selling proposition, not the fact that you're going to have the best lawns or the best equipment. Because if they want that, there's other alternatives that are going to do that better. They're going to be buying because of you. And so the sooner you can get in front of them, the sooner they can see you doing the work, the better.
Yeah, I get that.
Cool. You got it, brother. Best of luck to you. I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next caller, which is in Toronto. Let me just make sure I actually click on it correctly now. Toronto, Ontario, 647. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike. This is Mike from How to Hardscape calling in.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. You?
Good.
I got a question for you. What keeps you going?
In terms of what?
In terms of your North Star or whatever it is that you're working on through all the ups and downs of entrepreneurship, what keeps you going?
When I'm ultimately very, very low, I have to fall back on the fact that I decided to do this, right? And I think as business owners, we have to step back and realize that no one's forcing us to own a business. We are completely in control, and that's why most of us got into business. So if I really think it's that bad, then I should just go get a job, or I should go start a business that is quote unquote easier. And so I think that's when I'm really, really low. I have to realize that I ultimately made the bed that I'm sleeping in, and that if I wanted to change it, if I wanted to have less stress, I just hire less people. If I want to have less stress, we just not have a franchise. Like that's ultimately the decisions I have made. And so that makes me feel a little more in control. And then in terms of motivation and keep moving forward, things like that, I really do enjoy seeing other people make more money and get ahead in life, and kind of change the story of their financial life. I've seen what that's done for people. And I really believe that small business owners having more money for them is a very good thing for our local communities, for creating new jobs. It's more efficient than the government. And so I get pretty inspired by that. And so when I see things like the jobs report that came out last month, where small businesses are just getting obliterated right now, that's what keeps me motivated. I really do feel like the underdog in that moment. Like, we're small business owners, we're trying to out here hustle and fight. And I'm doing everything I possibly can to kind of be on that side of the small business owner. And so that kind of keeps me going.
Amazing answer, man. I'll keep listening in. Thanks so much.
Take care, brother. Bye-bye. All right. Next caller is from Erie, I think Pennsylvania. I'm so bad with states. I went to school in Canada for my first few years. So I'm bad with these things. Go ahead.
Hey, this is Graham Hipwell from Edinburgh Landscape. And how you doing today, Mike?
Very good. Very good. Thanks for coming on. What's your question?
Pleasure finally meeting you. I bought your P4P book, and I'm trying to integrate it in my business. My thing is I don't want to pay lower than $15 an hour, and I'm afraid that the P4P is just going to push me to a point where I can't grow. I don't want to. I would like to pay $20 an hour. Honestly, I'd love to. The guys are worth it. We do great work. I just have a concern that I can't continuously grow. So I guess the main question is, what's the average amount of lawns you should be doing a day, or the daily amount of money that you should be pulling in each day to kind of stay afloat while paying those types of wages?
Okay, well, there's a bunch of questions in there. Okay, so first of all, if you want everyone to make $20 an hour, why wouldn't you just make your base pay in P4P $20 an hour?
So wouldn't that mean that the P4P, they would end up making way more than 20 per hour? What I'm saying is I can kind of afford the 20 an hour. I don't think I can afford much more than that with our prices.
Got it. Okay, so what's your hour, if you don't mind me asking, what's your hourly rate on average to the customer per hour?
To the customer, it's about 75.
Cool. So if in the book, I talk about how my kind of equation I really look at is making sure that my hourly rate that I pay for base pay on P4P is 25% or less than my hourly rate to the customer. So assuming $75, you could easily afford an $18 per hour base pay on P4P and still have plenty of margin and profitability. Now, if you wanted to make that $20 as a base, you would need to be charging $80 per hour. Now, whether or not you can afford to pay someone more than 20 doesn't matter on P4P, because you're only going to pay them more than 20, if 20 is your base, if they're performing at the extent to which you are then able to afford it. Right. And so what I would recommend you doing now is looking at last year's wages, the gross wages that you paid field workers against the labor revenue last year, not the total revenue, because that's going to include like material markup, dump fees, a whole bunch of other stuff. But if you can look at how much labor revenue did you earn last year versus how much your wages was, I bet you it'd be surprisingly high compared to if you did like a 30 or 33% that you're giving the employees on P4P. And then when they're making 24, 25, 26.
That's a good point.
Go ahead.
That's a good point. You used the 33%. I saw it in your book. I run 2-man crews, and are you talking about 33% of the labor revenue for each of the crew member? So 66 as a whole?
Nope. So basically, every single dollar that's made, 33 cents in that case, would go towards wages. If there's 2 people in that crew, they're going to split that money. And so in theory, they should be able to get more lawns done to account for that. But that's going to be the math on that.
Gotcha.
But I think
thank you very much
for yourself and everyone listening, the thought process of I cannot afford to pay above a certain amount is 100% true if you're not on P4P. If you're on P4P, anything they make above base pay, they've earned. And so therefore you can budget in how much they're going to need to pay. You can afford to pay them. So for example, if you went last year and said, okay, total labor revenue last year versus total wages, it's for most businesses, when they look at it, it's like 45%, 40 to 45%. And if you're at 38, 36, whatever, that should give you confidence. Okay, I know I can do 33. And that means that if they can get above, they make $24 an hour, great. I'm thrilled because I was able to pay them a lot more and still stay profitable at 33 instead of 36, 38, 45% that I was paying last year. So one of the best ways to determine what you should be paying on P4P, or just to alleviate that mental pressure, is look at last year and just see, you'll be shocked. Most people would be shocked what percentage they're giving to frontline laborers as a percentage of labor revenue, not total revenue, but labor revenue. Does that make sense?
Yes. Thank you very much. Good answer.
You got it, brother. Take care. All right. Next question comes from Nate in Nampa, Idaho. In 3, 2, 1. Nate, how's it going? Oh, can you hear me? I can't hear you. That's not good. Going once, going twice. Nate from Nampa, Idaho, area code 208. I'm going to have to drop your call. Oh, no. Okay. Going to drop the call. And
hello?
Oh, there it is.
Hello?
Let's go. We're on.
Hello?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, wow. Yeah, it's not actually Nate. It's Lucas.
Okay.
But super nice to actually talk with you. I do have just a couple simple questions.
Go for it.
Hey, Mike. So my business is Lucas Landscaping, and I've had several other businesses in the past. I'm 37 years old. This is not my first rodeo in business. And obviously, right now I'm in my 3rd year. It's pretty rough because I'm still a solo operator. I own all my equipment. I'm working really hard to dial everything in, following the processes, making sure I'm organized. One question that I have that seems to kind of be reoccurring, do you have any recommendations on how to automate text messages? So when a lot of customers start texting, it seems to take up a lot of my time to get back with those customers.
And so are they texting your personal phone right now?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, because I just use one personal phone for the business to keep everything simple. And so a lot of text messages do come in. So if I start marketing more in the future, and the call services, they don't really have any system set up to respond with text messages yet.
Yep.
And so if you have any recommendations on that, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, like I think, the short-term quick fix would be to try to wean your customers off of text, especially if they're texting you Like, just like,
Okay.
hey, are you coming tomorrow? Or like, hey, you forgot the gate that's open, or like random little things. That's usually the
Okay.
problem with being solo for
Mhm.
multiple years and getting customers that have been around for a long time, is they start to text you about those random things. Like, oh, could you trim the bush next week? Like, oh, no, Sally's going to be out. She left her bike outside. Like, all of that random little stuff starts to be texted to you
Mhm.
when they know it's you and they know it's your number. As you grow and you start to have an
Right.
office intermediary, they know they're not texting Lucas. So therefore, they're less likely to text.
Mm.
They're more likely to call if it's a big issue, or email if it's a bigger issue. So I wouldn't try so much,
Right.
try really hard to like automate your text messaging. I wouldn't try that. Like, you potentially could have like certain,
Okay.
copy and paste template that you would have for certain responses. So if someone says, hey, I want to skip service
Mhm.
tomorrow, if someone says I couldn't get my bill or whatever it is, you could have copy and paste text messages for that. But honestly, text messaging is a difficult thing to automate responses to a client texting, right? It's just very difficult.
Right.
And furthermore, they've built a relationship with you where they expect you to respond. And that becomes a
Mhm.
bottleneck as you begin to keep growing the business. That is going to
Right.
put you in a hold, because now you're texting 5 people between every single job because you got now more customers, and that's going to become a bottleneck. So either A, start to wean them off of texting and just literally have it where it's like an automated text back to them that says, please, if you have a email or phone call or whatever, and then you could have an answering
Right.
service take those things from you. But what I'm concerned about is that every single job you hop back into the truck and you're texting for 5 or 10 minutes because they're all directly responding to you, when my goal would be that they contact a call center or send you an email and do everything that would take you 5
Gotcha.
minutes in 20 seconds or 30 seconds, or better yet, they just don't even contact you because you haven't made it so simple for them to tell you that, the left side of the driveway grew a lot last week because the sprinklers were left on. Like, that's the type of thing you don't really need to know, and they're starting to over communicate. And that's typically what I see happening with solo operators that give away their personal cell phone.
Wow, that's so helpful right now to hear that, and I thank you very much for that. One other question, and this is what I'm kind of concerned right now, is being the solo operator. I don't have any plan to hire until I've dialed in a few more of my systems, and I'm really dialed into the business, and then I will get my first hire. But right now, I'm very, very burnt out after a long day of, mowing, bush trimming, other projects, right? But like long days of mowing, so 7, 8 yards of mowing. And some of these yards, they're no joke. So I come home and I still have to do quotes. I still have to like look through some other paperwork, and I'm just physically completely wiped. I'm 37, so I'm getting a little bit older. So I know this can kind of be a younger guy's game at times, but I am very physically fit. Do you have any recommendations for me to help manage this burnout and still get the other things done, like the quoting, callbacks, follow-up, the things that actually build revenue for my business?
Yeah, I think like the first step is to realize that, getting out of the field or getting to the point where you're not doing the physical work doesn't necessarily mean less stress, right? It's a different type of stress that you'll move
Right,
into as you have employees and grow the business. And so right now you have a lot of
right,
autonomy, you have a lot of control. You do all the jobs. There's probably not a lot of callbacks. And so the stress that becomes when you start hiring people is financial and psychological. So I always say, when you're solo and
oh
you
yeah,
are small, you may have 1 or 2 employees. Most of the stress you're going to face is physical. As you grow a little bit more, you start having 4, 5, 6 employees,
Mhm.
it becomes more financial pressure, because now you are not able to be
Right,
outside doing the work and performing and revenue producing work. So it's stressful financially. And then as you get 8, 9, 10, 12 employees, now we're talking more psychological stress, because every single day there's a very mad customer. Every single day someone's calling out. A big mess up is happening. And so it's a different type of stress. And before a lot of us, I'm not saying this specifically for you, but for every single owner that wants to aspire to grow, I think they got to realize it's just a different type of stress. And you got to realize, what type of stress are you willing to work with, and which type of stress do you thrive best in? For some people, the financial and psychological stress of growth is crippling, and they should stay maybe by themselves and 1 or 2 employees. And that's fine. And so I
Right.
think that'd be the first thing. As you do get older, though, and your body physically starts to give out, regardless of whether or not you can handle the
Mhm.
stress of physical work, becomes irrelevant, because your body is like, no, you think you can deal with this, but it's not happening. And so that's when you start to really start figuring out, okay, how do I price my jobs to the point where I can't afford employees and I can afford them to not be as efficient as me? I can make sure I have a P4P system, like pay for performance, where I know when they go out and work, they're trying to be efficient as they can throughout the day, and they're able to make good money, so they're not leaving me every 2 weeks. Like, that's the type of things I'd be wanting to focus on right now, because absolutely, and I don't even need to know your age if you're saying this, but like at your age, you got to be thinking about 5 to 10 years from now. And if your income 100% is coming from the business right now, you're putting in a wild card. You got to make sure you've grown the business to the point where you can afford employees, and that they aren't going to be as efficient as you, are not going to be as perfect as you in terms of doing the work. And that's not easy. But I think that'd be a worthwhile 2 to 3 year goal of trying to get 2 employees that can do the work without you being in the truck, so that you're not physically burnt out. And that will shift the stress to financial and more psychological, but that's going to be necessity as you get older.
Oh, that's perfect advice. I really appreciate that, because that aligns with my 2 to 3 year goal, and then my 5 year vision / goal. Things move so quickly. It's hard to have too much past 5 years, but that makes perfect sense. I really appreciate it. And, I do. I really appreciate it. You're one of the only entrepreneurs that I've ever known at your age that, has done so well in so many areas. So it's a privilege to be able to watch your videos. I think you're a very knowledgeable guy. If I was your age and I had started a business, my business is at your age, like 13. I can only imagine where I would be now. Unfortunately, I didn't get into different businesses till I was about 23, 24. And I had a few failures and then some successes, and I've learned a lot, gained a lot of experience. But now being at that age where it's like, okay, 5 years goes by, I'm getting a little bit older. I do believe I could handle more of the emotional and financial stress a little bit more if I can slowly take off some of this physical stress. Absolutely. Right? Because my mindset is right, but it's the physical stuff that hurts me. So if I just keep pushing forward and I'm persistent, this will all work out. Those are the two things I really have going for me. It's like, you have to stick with anything that you like. The other caller that called in and said, what keeps you going? It's like, I chose this path. It's not the easiest one. Entrepreneurship in any way is hard. But at the end of the day, we do have to remind ourselves, we chose this. If you want something easier, go get a 9 to 5.
Absolutely. Thanks for calling in, brother. You have a good one. Bye.
Oh, thank you. You too. Bye.
Cool. All right. Next caller is from Urbana, Ohio, I believe. I'm going to kind of try to help you guys wrap up your questions a bit. I appreciate the sentiment at the end of each call, but the call room is completely full right now. So I'm going to try to move to these a little bit faster. But next caller from Urbana, Ohio. You're on. Go ahead. Urbana, Ohio. 937 is the first 3 letters, or first 3 numbers. Oh no, we're going to have to drop the call. 3, 2, 1. Okay, we're going to drop the call. Sorry. Shreveport, Louisiana is coming up in 3, 2, 1. I think that's Robin Green. Go ahead.
Hey, Mike, this is Garrett Green. How you doing, sir?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'll be quick, man. I am wondering what is wrong with Facebook ads. They're not performing as well. And as far as TikTok, if you guys have had any success on TikTok, not like branded, so to say, but an actual paid ad on TikTok. Thank you.
Absolutely. Cool. Yeah, so first and foremost, in terms of Facebook, the iOS 14 update, and as they've continued into 15, is really hurt targeting. And so you might think you're targeting people 45 years and older, but literally more than half of your ads are probably being shown to people that are 18, 15, etc. And they're not buyers of lawn care and landscaping services. So the targeting has really gotten diluted because of the privacy settings that Apple has instituted on iOS. And so that's really, really hurt. And that's why if you know, in the stock market, you've seen Facebook or Meta dive in their stock price because a lot of their growth is stalled due to the fact that advertisers are leaving and a lot of small business owners are leaving because we can't target as directly anymore. I think Facebook's going to figure this out. I've already seen a few things that they're doing to try to get around these different strategies. But that being said, when it comes to TikTok, I really do believe what you said there at the end is important. And that is, I feel like TikTok might be a good branding play, but you're not going to get very good direct sales from TikTok in this industry of lawn care landscaping, because the vast majority of those users are going to skew younger. And so the older demographic that is on there uses it less. They're not super mature in that market, in that platform, I should say. But that being said, I don't think you should not do it. We're starting to make TikTok videos every single day and trying to create an audience around it. But the general platform that everyone's going to use that is 50, 60, 70 years old is still Facebook. In a few years, that will become Instagram. In a few years, it'll probably become TikTok, right? So I've always said that like these social platforms, they age with the population, but they're sped up. So it's not like going to take 20 years for that 20-year-old to become 40-year-old and move to a more mature platform. It's going to take 3 or 4 years. And so being ahead of that curve is not a bad idea, but definitely keep in mind, it's not going to be short-term sales. You're not going to get people calling you from TikTok or like directly filling out your estimate request form. They're scrolling fast, and we have not seen meaningful results in terms of actual leads coming in that we can track and measure from those specific ads. Next caller is from, I want to say Manti, Utah, 435. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Mike. My name is Jason Gray. I'm here with Gray's Lawn Care Services. So college kid, just going through school, won some business competitions last semester, and I started my business. Have a little bit of experience in the field, but I just have a lot of questions based on like, how do you start? What's like the number one thing when scaling? So I'm trying right now with things I don't have a big budget. So I'm trying to do my own website, learn how to do SEO, all these things. And it's really complicated. I was just curious if you have any advice or pointers on how to deal with SEO better, and if I can't like afford to pay somebody to help me do it.
Totally. So first and foremost, I assume then that you believe your biggest bottleneck right now to growth is just getting more leads. Am I right on that?
I do, yeah. So I've had a lot of contact with Angie, and they're trying to pressure me into doing that, but I don't necessarily have the funds to do that.
Yep.
But yeah, I think just getting my leads and things like that. So I think SEO is the cheapest way to go about doing that.
Okay. And keep in mind that SEO is still a long-term game, right? Like it's going to take 6 to 12 months to rank typically on SEO and start getting leads that are organically from that. And so if you're in it for the long run, that's fine. But just keep in mind that SEO is not direct response marketing, which is going to be much more immediate, right? And so, I would say in the short term, if you can't afford, to pay someone to do it, just use Weebly.com, use Squarespace, build something that looks really nice. And then don't worry about spending a whole week building it, right? Build it in a weekend. And then dedicate an hour or two each week to making it slightly better, improving the videos, improving the pictures. I've made several videos. If you go back, I've made several videos about how to make your website better from an SEO standpoint, from a design perspective, from a Google ranking. Like I've made a lot of these videos, and you don't have to use lawn care web design. I tell you what we do on the back end in terms of rasterizing images, making them smaller, so they load faster, making your the zip codes and the city names, all of these things I talk about all the time. So I would just say, hey, go ahead and get your website started. That's the most important thing. And then just chip away at it every week. Just say, hey, I'm going to dedicate 1 hour a week to making it better, whether that be adding more text, adding some better pictures, whether it be going out and getting some nice photos of myself in my uniform with my truck and putting those on the website. I'm going to optimize it on my mobile this week. I'm going to make sure that everything looks better on my mobile device because that's really important. So these are the things that I'd recommend you do. And that's going to be, though, a 6 to 12 month game. That's why I don't want you to spend 2 weeks or a week figuring out your website. Build it, chip away at it, but that's going to be a longer term game. I'd say more in the short term, you're going to have to do more direct response marketing, which usually will come in the form of door knocking, door hangers, every door direct mail. Actually, those things that are cheaper, you're not going to have the money to spend a bunch on Facebook ads or a whole bunch on Google ads and do a big campaign, but going hand-to-hand combat is going to be the way to get leads right now. And then let that continual chipping away at your website be the thing that eventually 6 to 12 months later, you start to get leads that fills your pipeline without you having to do that direct response marketing. But that's going to be a longer term game. So a lot of times people are like, I'm going to build this website and people are going to show up. I guarantee you won't get a lead from that website natively without sending them from a advertisement for several months. And so that's the part that gets discouraging for people. And so I don't want you to put all your eggs in that basket and spend a whole bunch of emotional time, like a week or two building it. Just get started, chip away at it, and then focus on the direct response marketing that you're going to have to more pound pavement for because you don't have the budget for online. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And just a quick follow up with that. So, would you consider like Angie Leads or Home Advisor or whatever it be? Would you consider that a good service to do? Like, even if I don't have that much money to put into marketing, would you recommend saying like, oh, set aside $100 a month to get, let's say, like 4 or 5 leads a month?
I'd try it out. I wouldn't sign into a long-term commitment with them. That's what they're really pushing for right now because they know the game. They know that after a few months you don't want them. Yeah. So I wouldn't be signing a long-term commitment. I'd rather pay twice as much if needs be and do 1 or 2 months or just do it short term. But again, I truly believe that if you're willing to put yourself out there a little bit, you're going to be able to get plenty of leads to fill your schedule, whether it be going on Nextdoor groups, going on local Facebook groups and putting yourself out there, going to your local community, putting out some flyers or door hangers, talking to people, honestly, talking to larger landscape companies that don't do certain services and building a relationship with them and either giving them some sort of commission on the jobs you get or just building the relationship so they just give you the work. Like we give away hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of work every single year from just our local shop because we don't do certain services. And so the people that get that work is the ones that have built relationships with us, that support us, that give us clients when there's work they don't want to do. And so building that up with like a big company in a local area that doesn't want to do X, Y, and Z. Like for example, there's landscaping companies out to wazoo that don't do mowing. If you want to do mowing, build a really good relationship with them. Give them all lunch for a day. Talk to the owner for a little bit. Be hello. Give them a few landscaping jobs that you would otherwise have, but give it to them, and then build up that rapport with them. That alone will keep you busy. And so that would be where I'd start first.
Okay, awesome. And what would you suggest based on like Google reviews? Because my business page right now is having a lot of technical issues where it's not like they can see the reviews, but I can't see them, and nobody looking it up can see it. So I'm like, I have like 7 clients who've left reviews, and I have 0 reviews still. So I get over 100 people to my site or traffic on my site in a month, and I get like not a ton of leads off of it just because I feel like I don't have a lot of views or reviews for that.
Do you have control of that of the Google page, or is this like it just up there right now?
I do, yes.
And can you see the reviews?
I cannot, no.
So they're probably not making it on your page. So when you go into your Google business listing, make sure you go and send them the link that is on that page. Is that what you're doing right now?
Yeah, that's what I've done. And I've called like Google support team, and they said that, I'm not verified, but my whole site says I am. And so there's like they're trying to get me to
This
pay
sounds
this
like
big
Google.
fee to
Is this
leave
Google
it to them
Local
for a week.
Services?
But
Is this Google Local Services or is this Google My Business?
yeah.
Which one?
It's Google Local Services, but
got it. So Google Local Services, at the beginning, your reviews that you get from that link that they give you is not going to show up on your Google My Business page. So I would only use that link that they share with you for the first 2 reviews to validate your account, because those do not show up publicly.
Okay.
Yep. So once you get that, that's fine. But get your Google reviews from your Google listing or Google My Business. It's currently called Google My Business. In a few months, it's going away. It's just going to be called Google Business Listing. And so use that link because that's a public facing one. The other one is not guaranteed to necessarily go public because it's more used for just verifying your account to get set up with Google Local Services.
Okay, perfect. Great. I appreciate your help, man. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing.
Take care. All right, thanks. All right, next one is from Evansville, Indiana. I think this is Steven. Steven, can you hear me?
Hey, Mike. It's Brendan with
I'm always wrong on everyone's name. I'm always so wrong. Everyone's caller ID is off or something like that. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Evansville.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. Hey, hey. So currently my third year in business. About to break my record. Have my best month yet, 30,000 a month. So things are going really well. However, my wife really wants to move to Florida.
Don't we all?
So
Come on now.
I'm just looking into it. I know. And things are going really well, but it is good. I'm only in my third year, and I do think I can get it going pretty quickly. But I was wondering, if you had any advice for a company that is kind of just getting things going, but maybe restarting in a new state. Obviously I'd have all the trucks. I have 3 trucks and equipment, everything I need for equipment wise, but I'd go down there with a decent chunk of change, 10 to 20,000 for marketing, but I'd want to get it going as fast as possible. So any advice for moving to a new state, restarting basically from scratch as far as customer base goes, but trying to get back to where I was as soon as possible?
2 things. First one is, are you selling the current business, or are you going to try to have it managed by a general manager while you're out of town?
I definitely thought about it, but I don't think it's in an organizational level where I could have it managed. I think it'd be just get something for the brand and customer base I currently have, which I don't know exactly what it'd be worth. I'm kind of just starting to look into it, but more than likely just sell it and restart completely.
Okay. So what I would recommend is try to build a site. Like, it sounds like you're going to have a good amount of starting capital and you're going to kick things off pretty hard in Florida. So if you know that, and you know a date that you're going to end up being there, then I would recommend that you start your website and have a banner that says, like, booked out until, and the date that you're showing up basically, and try to get it to start ranking in that area. So whether that be getting reviews from local people, whether it be whatever you can do to start getting that thing ranking and just getting the site up, and SEO, Google starting to actually index the site for keywords. That would be my first thing, so that when you get there, you already kind of have that brand power online. That would be my main thing, honestly, just trying to get the site up prior. So if that's 6 months from now that you're going to move there, build the thing now, get it ranking, and then literally just have a banner, like where you would usually submit estimates and things. Just say, hey, we are booked out until this time. And then as you get closer to that time, if it's ranking well, you'll start to actually get leads, and you'll schedule them for literally the week that you get there.
Wow, that would be awesome. Literally the week move in and next day have some landscaping. That'd be awesome.
And then I would keep my eye out for other companies in the area you're moving into that are trying to also sell and are just potentially trying to sell off their clients. And hopefully, let's say you can get, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000 to sell off your stuff locally. And then you find someone down there that has, 40, 50, 60 customers that you could buy for 10 or 15 grand, whatever it is, the numbers, potentially just to kind of jumpstart things. So from day one, you have a decent income, and that would probably also help the family, just having that confidence that you're going to start with good income from day one.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Hey, thank you so much, Mike.
You got it, brother. Take care.
Yep.
All right. Next one is from Provo, Utah. I'm going to stop saying people's names because apparently I'm wrong every single time. 801 number. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Josh with Greenland Lawn Care and Landscaping in Utah,
Cool.
Provo, Utah. And I've got a question for you. It's a cultural question.
Okay.
So I've been working on implementing P4P for the last 2 years. Okay. And when you're hiring people, you get them on and they work really, really well at the beginning, but then they start to drop off. Mm-hmm. And in the current hiring market, it's really hard to find new people. I'm just wondering, what do you do in that situation with P4P? It's not really working with these certain people. Some of your past material you've mentioned, kind of using firing as an example, but it's so hard to find new people to replace them. Do you have any ideas what you do in there? Some way to incentivize them to be a little bit more productive with P4P?
Totally. So the main thing is, as I'm sure you know, a quick question. Have you already implemented P4P, or are you kind of running it in the back end?
We've got it in the foreground right now with our new guys that we've got this season. So
got it. And like on average, what percentage of them hit above base pay on any given pay period? Just average. What percentage?
So all of our guys are brand new, and none of them have actually hit hit above base pay yet. They've all just barely finished training within the last 2 weeks.
Got it. Okay. So what you want to do is be really upfront and honest with them. And that is that for the first few pay periods, they're not going to hit above base pay. So we tell people right from the get, like
Right.
it's very rare that someone in the first 3 paychecks will get a $1 above base pay. But the goal is to be able to get trained up and be as efficient as possible. So that after that, you can make you can make more money. And it takes 1 paycheck for them to get really good performance dollars above base pay, that it clicks for them. And so what you want to do, you can kind of artificially make that happen by doing this. 1, if you're booked out really far, you can make sure that you get some jobs that you've put too many budget hours on, and you've kind of stacked the revenue of the job towards the labor side. So you might actually like not charge estimate fees or dump fees, but you give them more hours so they beat budget hours and they just crush it on P4P. Same thing goes for a great time to institute P4P is during the time when you know the lawns don't grow very fast and you know the guys are going to crush it on P4P. It's a great time to institute it because once they taste the P4P, even when it gets harder to mow, they know it's possible. They start to understand it. They start to ask good questions about what P4P is and how to make better P4P. And so the bottom line is you can artificially do this by 1, increasing the hours, kind of like bulking up some jobs so that they're going to get above it. The second thing you can do is raise prices. Because again, if you raise prices to the customer, you're essentially giving a percentage of that to the employees. It's easier for them to get above base pay the higher prices are. And so I've seen it several times where I've told owners to raise their prices, not because they need more money. They were just in hyper growth, but they kept having this cultural issue that guys weren't grabbing on a P4P. Only half of the crew is making above base pay. It's like, look, raise your prices. So immediately they're all going to be making a couple dollars extra per hour, which will put them above base pay. And that is the spark you need to give them much better footing and understanding. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, cool. No, yeah, like it's P4P means absolutely zero if more than 50% of your crew is hitting base pay each pay period, because it starts to become like, look, I'm not going to work harder for a couple dollars more per hour. And I'm not going to work harder if half the time I hit base pay anyways. So that's when they just check out. You want it to be where like 80, 90, 95% of your crew is getting above base pay. And the only reason they don't is if they're in training those first few weeks, or if they're making massive damage cases and yellow slips that slow them down. Outside of that, we want them above base pay, right? So to give them that artificial kind of taste of that is raise hourly rate to the customer, i.e. raise prices, or B, beef up a few jobs so they can really crush it and kind of get that taste.
Yeah, that sounds like a good strategy there. Quick question to follow up with that. If your guys just aren't motivated by pay, is that something even worth trying to fight for in that regard? So they're more motivated by time off and things like that rather than just the revenue.
Totally. Yeah. So
do you even want them on your team?
Yeah, no, right. So it's very difficult as owners for us who are very money motivated to sometimes even make sense of some of their reasoning. And it's difficult, but in this labor market where I was talking about this with our franchisees a couple of weeks ago, the average net worth of households in America have increased their net worth by 140% compared to 2019. And now that might mean they went from $3,000 to $7,000 net worth, money in their bank, assets, etc. But they feel rich. So they don't feel the need to work long hours, and they're more inclined to quit if they feel like they're being overworked or they're getting lots of overtime. Like no one wants overtime now. And so, and the reason is because they feel like they have wealth. And so, we can complain about that, and that's easy because we as owners are very money motivated. But also what we've tried to focus on the past 8 months or so is how do we make it where people do not need to work 40 hours? We schedule as if they're going to work 32 or 35. And so that if they want off, if they need an extra day off, that we're not in a bind. If they don't show up, we want people wanting to show up to work because they need the hours. They want the hours. And so we can either A, try to find the perfect person that wants to work crazy hours, or B, make it where they're only getting 32, 33 hours a week. And so the person that really needs 40, they want to show up to work. They're like, hey, can I do something extra on the weekend? Is there someone else that I can help when I get back from the shop of my route? Can I go help someone else? And that's the kind of culture I want. And so the catch 22 here is in order for that to happen, you have to go hire more people that allows that to happen. right? And so that would be
Right.
what I'd be trying to do if I was you. And I know it's easier said than done, finding enough people to where they don't need to work 45, 50 hours a week. And you're actually, you're not asking them to come into work because they're actually like, hey, is there more can I do? I need more hours. I want people asking for more hours. And I have yet to ever give someone off an extra day or tell them, hey, you don't have to come in tomorrow. You can be off early today. And I'm like, oh man, it's very rare. The only time that ever happens is on P4P when someone is crushing it in a week and they want to make more money. But it's not common for them to want to work more right now.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much. That was very helpful, Mike.
Cool. Take care, brother. All right. Next question is going to come from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I've been waiting for 16 minutes. I apologize. Go ahead. The numbers.
Hi, Mike.
Go ahead. Yep.
Hi, this is Ryan. I'm from York, Pennsylvania. Hey, we're starting P4P. We started back in March. But yeah, March 1st is when we started our season, and then ever since we started mowing, I'm really struggling to have the guys hit P4P.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know what you're going to tell me. What the problem is my pricing, but I'm just having a very hard time having my guys be able to get P4P within like a 9-hour day.
Okay.
They end up making their.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a couple questions here, and they're going to seem left field, but they're for a reason. So first off, how many years have you been in business?
This is my 5th season.
Okay. How many employees do you have?
I have 6 employees.
Cool. And then your hourly rate, do you feel like it is like above average or kind of average in your market?
I feel like it's a little slightly above average.
Okay, cool. So
shoot for 60 an hour.
Yeah, so I wouldn't go there first because that could be the case. Like you could raise prices. You could always say that, right? Like we talked about earlier. However, I would consider the fact that you might want to raise the percentage that you're giving the employees during this season of time, right? During May, June, when the grass is just taking off, you might want to give them a higher percentage on P4P in comparison to other months of the year where they get the lawn done twice as fast.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're at 35% now. Would you recommend going higher?
I don't like going higher than 35 year round. But we do go to 40 in our local market during the really, really fast growing months of April and May. We do move that up to 40%. So what I would recommend doing is, you've been in business for 5 years, so you know which months that's going to be very hard to hit for them to hit P4P. The bottom line is everyone's like, well, why would you raise the percentage? The thing is, you're not actually paying anyone more if they're hitting base pay all the time. Like you only paid them more when they're hitting base pay. And so I'd rather have that number fixed by raising that to 40%. You effectively are going to give them a 14% raise by raising that from 35% to 40%. Okay. And so that will probably be enough to get them above base pay and then make them more efficient, because now they actually see dollar signs. They actually see more efficient, more money. And then now all of a sudden you can catch up. They're not working as many hours and you're not paying as much overtime. If someone hitting base pay and going in overtime, you should be raising your percentage in order to make sure they get above base pay. So I would consider definitely looking at the numbers over the next couple pay periods. Like, okay, if I paid them 40%, or even just go back in time, if you've been running P4P for a while, go back in time, look at the past couple pay periods and say, okay, if I ran 40%, where would this put the guys? I would guess it's going to put them just above base pay, which is enough to whet their appetite and start making them more efficient. Because as soon as they hit base pay consistently, and it's like the spring rush, there's rain, grass is growing really fast, and they can't make above base pay, that's when they'll check out. And so the goal is to keep them above base pay. And if you've artificially raised your percentage that you give them in order for that to happen during those couple months, I would do it in a heartbeat. That's why we aren't really profitable during those months, because all of our profits are really going out in the form of P4P, but it's to keep them above base pay. I do not want people checking out in spring rush because P4P is impossible. Like it's the worst thing for, I'll lose all my good guys. And they'll all think P4P is rigged and they'll all think it's a joke. That's the last thing I want. So I'm willing to give up some profits during those high growth seasons in order to make sure that the rest of the year they buy into P4P, they understand it, they get it, and they don't leave and think it's just another scam bonus structure.
Okay. All right. So you're saying just raise it, bump them up to 40% temporarily until like June, and not tell them that I'm raising it to 40. That way, in June I can go back down to 33, or is that what you're saying?
No, I would tell them, because like the bottom line with P4P, and it kind of sounds like there's other issues here, they don't have any idea how the numbers are working right now. The fact that you kind of insinuate that you could potentially even pull that off is probable that they just have no idea what P4P even is, and they don't care and they don't need to know right now because they're just hitting base pay. So what I would recommend doing is having a meeting with them like, hey guys, I want this P4P thing to work and I want you to be incentivized so that the harder you work, the more money you make. I see right now that we're all at, I'm making up numbers, we're at $14, $15, $16 per hour that we're all earning on P4P, but base pay is at 17. I want you guys to make more than 17. I want you to be able to feel like you can make 18, 19, or 20. In order for that to happen, during these months when it's really hard because the grass is growing fast, mowing we're always behind on, it's raining, I'm going to move up P4P to 40% just for these months because I want you all to be able to make above base pay. If you come from that perspective, they'll buy in. There's nothing but upside for them. It's not like you're giving them a raise, for crying out loud. The only problem you'll ever have issues with P4P is if you're lowering that percentage. Right. But if you're honest with them, like, hey, I want you all to be able to make above base pay, even when the grass is growing really, really tall and growing really fast, and we're having a hard time with mowing in the spring rush. If you say that, you'll get lots of buy-in. And I would do that and be open and honest with them. So that way, when they see their pay go up, they're like, oh, that's because of P4P. And now they start to ask questions. You want your employees to ask questions about P4P. Everyone gets like, oh man, I'm going to have all these questions and I'm going to have to explain the math. That's the best thing in the world as an owner, to be able to explain P4P. Because when they ask questions, it means they actually care. They're starting to run the math in their head. And the more they can do that, the more efficient they'll be. And right now it sounds like they have no idea what P4P is. They don't really know it. They just probably get the numbers. They don't see it. They don't care because there's no money, no performance dollars on their paycheck. So we've got to get them to that level by increasing the percentage. And then they'll ask questions. They'll start figuring things out. Then when you switch back to 35% after the spring rush, they'll still be making above base pay simply because they've understood the system. And now the grass has gone to a more manageable level in terms of mowing.
Right. Okay. All right. So like I said, this is P4P is fairly still brand new. And you're right. I don't think my guys truly understand. They nod their heads, say, "Yeah, we get it," but I don't think they really understand how it works. So with it being new, how often and how much time would you devote into like trying to just bring them up to speed with it? Is it like, would you do a weekly meeting about it every week, or?
Are you sending the daily reports right now from P4P software or not?
No, we don't use P4P software right now.
Okay. So if I wasn't using that, I would try to make it a point of topic basically every single day. And so that's what P4P software does, is like sends them the report and they actually see what they made on hourly versus P4P every single day. And that's going to lead to questions. And there might be mess ups and they actually like, hey, this wasn't right. But that's good. It means they're actually paying attention to what their performance is. That is the goal. And so that's a big reason why P4P is there. And then what we're working on right now is for them to be able to see actually their pay and trend over time. So if they're not even hitting base pay, they can at least say, oh, like last week I made $15. This week I made $16 an hour. This week I'm making $70. Hopefully I can get above base pay within a couple of weeks because I'm getting more efficient. So the reporting is why the software was built. Like anyone can run P4P in Excel documents, but the reporting is the important part. And if you don't have that, you need to have at least a couple times a week where you're explaining their paychecks. Like I would recommend, because you're probably doing Excel right now, which is totally fine, but you've got to explain these numbers. Because if they don't understand it, it means absolutely nothing. Because what's worse, only thing that's worse than paying hourly is them getting random bonuses on their paycheck and they don't know why. Because they can't align me working harder and faster with I get paid more. The only way to do that is show the numbers. And so I would be showing them almost every single day. And that's why the software, we have the daily reports. It's 'cause I want them to see how much they made on hourly, how much they made on P4P. I want them to see manual deductions of yellow slips and see a reason why and see how that impacts their paycheck. I want them to feel and see that every single day. And so if you don't have the reports from the software, I would just literally every single day, once you ran P4P, if they come in the morning, like, hey guys, I can go over your paycheck and you can see exactly how much you made yesterday. I just need to talk to you each morning. Now, when you have a few employees, that's fine. The software is built so as you scale the business, you're not going to have time to talk to every single person and show them their numbers every single day, right? But for now, you got to get them to understand understand the system, and explaining it is fine. But until they get P4P and they make above base pay, they will not care. It's just the unfortunate facts of it.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's what I'm living through right now. Because I mean, we're trying it, and the guys really aren't buying into it. And that's, like you said, that's on me because I'm not teaching them properly. So okay, yeah, I'll focus on that.
Because even if in the midterm,
yeah,
even
thank
if
you for
in the meantime, even if for now you had it where it was like they weren't hitting above base pay, and they would if they could see, oh, like yesterday I made $164 on P4P, I made $180 on base pay, like hourly wages. And they can start to see that number like, oh, it's close. Well, then one day, this is what's going to happen. This is why daily reports are so important, and try to get them hooked into P4P as fast as possible. Is they're going to work one day, they're going to knock out an 8-hour job in 4 hours, and they're going to see in their paycheck they made $240 on P4P, and if they would be on hourly, it would have been like 110. And that's when it clicks. Like, oh my word, I made twice as much money because of this thing. I should figure this out. I should make sure that I get this every day so I actually achieve above base pay by the end of the pay period. And that's what you got to get. You got to give them a taste. And in my mind, the daily reports are that taste that even after a few days of being trained, they'll probably get one day, not a whole paycheck, but a one day where they're good of above base pay. And that's the first, like, oh my word, I made $30 extra today. That's like extra $4 an hour because I worked harder today. Oh, I should do that tomorrow. If I do this enough, I'll get actually more money on my paycheck. Oh my word, I made $500 extra in the past couple of weeks on my paycheck. Like, that is what keeps them motivated to P4P. Then they start running their own numbers, etc. This is going to be the last caller from St. Louis and area code 314. Last call of the day. It's all you. Go ahead.
Hey, so a question that I have is I'm looking to start up a business, but the local guy in our area has been doing it for quite a few years. He's got over 500 accounts, and he charges so low that it's really hard to get any sort of market share. I mean, he's charging $25 a cut, and so what do you recommend whenever it comes to trying to build a business and grow a business over time with competing with somebody who has 500 plus accounts, so they don't have to have such a big margin?
Okay, couple questions. First of all, what's the name of the city that you live in?
Well, it's Southern Illinois. It's like Madison County area, Alton, Edwardsville.
Madison County, Illinois. Okay. Okay. Here we go. So in Madison County, Illinois, there's 264,000 people. All right. So the first thing you have to realize is that 500 customers is less than probably 1% of the market. Now, if we zero in further, what's the name of his business, if you don't mind me asking?
To be honest with you, I don't want to share that.
That's fine. Okay, cool. All right. So what I would focus on is the fact that this is a large area of 741 square miles in Madison County, and there's 500 customers. And I know that it can seem like they're the big fish, and they are, and that's probably what you're getting compared to in pricing. Like, do people always say like, oh, so-and-so is cheaper? Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Got it. So what did they do well? This is why I was asking for their website, because I wanted to determine this myself. But what do you think they do well? Like, why do you think people use them besides just their price? Is there anything besides their price that's good?
Well, nobody has pointed out any specific, like they strike the yard well or anything specific like that. It's always they do a great job and they only charge, $20-$25 per lot. And so that's just the gist of the answers that I've gotten.
And are those from customers that are asking for an estimate and then you're kind of giving a price and they're saying that?
No, so it's more like going door to door, and because I haven't started just yet, it's like introducing myself and trying to start something up.
Yep. So what do you think they do poorly? If you looked at what they can't do that you could, is there anything that's glaringly obvious?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I've tried to wrap my brain around it, like, well, what could I do better than them? What could I offer that would be premium to what they do to be able to scale and make customers see the value in something, that I was to do, but I haven't been able to wrap my brain around it, because even the things that they don't do great at, it seems as though they're doing still okay,
So here's
acceptable,
one thing.
I guess that's
like here's one thing. So let me go ahead and share this real quick. What I always like to do when people bring up competition. So we got Madison County Lawn Care that I typed in here. And if you look here, you got your Google My Business, obviously here. But if we go to the native search rankings, right? We got Yelp, BuzzFile, Home Advisor, Manta, BB, Better Business Bureau, LinkedIn, Porch, Facebook. There's one person. And then this is not even general liability insurance or whatever. Okay. There's not even a real company with a real website on the first page. So I would look at this as a massive opportunity from an SEO standpoint. There's no one, like, I don't care how many customers you have. Maybe he's been around for a long time and he just has good word of mouth, but there's literally nobody in this market, in my opinion, that's doing well in SEO. Because if you have a half decent website, you should be able to beat out the Better Business Bureau, right? And Manta, right? So there's no one doing a very good job in SEO. I'd look at that as a massive weakness. And there's going to be people in that market out of 200 some odd thousand people that are willing to pay an extra $5 or $10 for someone who has a great website, answers the phone, and they can go check online reviews and then check their website. Like, for all I know, maybe it's this Matt's guy, right? Which is great. Let's go ahead and check out his website. Like, this is like, we can, you can do better than this, right? You can do better than this type of a website. And nothing against it. If this person's watching, this is just fine. But I'm saying this is the number one Google ranked business in your area. You can beat this out. And there's going to be customers that are willing to pay an extra amount of money for someone that has a valid website and it has a great image, a great brand. And they're not going to price compare you against someone else that I can't even find online. And so, if someone's been around, this is traditional for people that have been in business for 15, 20 years. They've got a bunch of customers and everyone's like, oh, well, what are they doing? It's like, no. They've been around for 15 or 20 years. That's why they have all those customers. They're not getting new customers. They're just basically trying to keep the customers they have, and they're trying to fulfill churn, right? So if they're losing 100 customers a year, 20% of 500, they're just trying to get 100 customers a year. They just got to get a couple a week, right? For you, when you're trying to grow and expand, you cannot grow a business just getting 1 or 2 a week. And so, I would say really just trying to zero in what can you do that they are not able to do. And one, just because of their size, is they cannot be personable. They cannot have a service where they know the owners on the property. So if you want to stand out that way to get started, that's fine. Second thing is they're not going to be knocking on doors. The owner's not going to be knocking on doors and talking to people. Again, custom, like that personal feel. The next thing is they obviously have no SEO. And if they have that many customers, they've been in business for a long time, they got a lot of word of mouth, and that's fantastic. But there's definitely ways to penetrate in a market like this. You have a competitor that's telling you there's plenty of opportunity. They have 500 customers. This is a right market. And then I'm looking online and there's no one that's taken over, right? If we put an Augusta Lawn Care in that location, we'd be in the top 4 within 2 to 3 days, literally. And it's that weak. That's one of the weakest areas I've ever seen, where I type in a county name and I don't get a single real lawn care business on the first page. Like it's just a matter of finding the holes in their business, right? And if someone's been around for 15 or 20 years, they're fat and happy, and that's fine. They're probably running a good business, making good profits, and great. But if you're young and scrappy, you just got to find what can you do that they can't. And obviously they can't do SEO. Obviously they can't build a great website. And that's the part where I'd be trying to penetrate there.
Okay. Perfect. Sounds good. Well, I definitely appreciate it.
My pleasure, brother. Take care.
All right, you too.
Bye. Cool. Hope that was helpful, everyone. I had to come back onto the call-in show. I appreciate you all being on here. And like Jeremy says, smash the like button. Just annihilate it. Crush it. Destroy it. I didn't obviously go through anyone's comments in the comments here, but we'll do one of those episodes another time. It's been over 70 minutes. So thank you all for being here. We will see you sometime in the future. I just haven't been able to do these lives as much. It's been pretty busy, but hopefully try to get 1 or 2 of these in each month. Take care. Have a great rest of your weekend and have a great week. It's going to be spring rush. We're in the middle of spring rush. It's horrible. Everyone else is having horrible experiences too. Everyone else is having bad experiences with employees leaving, having a hard time finding new employees, customers that are mad right now, people that are on edge because they've been watching the news too much. People are worried because now the stock market's tanking. People are worried because their house values now they can't sell their house. Like it's everybody. All right. And it's not easy running a business. And right now, the current economic climate for small businesses, the worst I've seen since March 2020. And unfortunately, the government's not going to be stepping in helping any of us anytime soon. So we're on our own. And I think this is the time for us to bind together. It's not the time to fight each other. You should be meeting up with other owners in your local market. You should be figuring out things together. Stop looking at such a microcosm of your industry as the entire market. It is not the entire market. The entire market is much bigger than just lawn care landscaping. It's much bigger than roofing. We are not competing against them for labor. We're not competing against them for customers. We are competing against Amazon. We are competing at Walmart. When these companies are starting to now lay off hundreds of thousands of people, I feel like in the next few weeks, we're going to have a really good opportunity. It's coming. The recession is coming. We only have one more quarter where we have to report negative GDP, gross domestic product, and we will be in a technical recession. Like I talked about a few months ago, it's happening. So here we go. Buckle up. It's going to be opportunity for some, and it's going to be, unfortunately, the last chapter of the book for many. Take care, everyone. Have a great rest of your weekend.